Hello and welcome to the Big 12 Mafia College Football Mafia Show. I am your host, Nathan Bomber Brown. With me are my co-hosts. That would be Moen After Dark and Sergeant Pickles. How you guys doing tonight?
Go Dogs.
Good.
Go
Doing
Dogs.
great.
I like that. You're going to start off your shows with Go Dogs?
Yeah, just to upset some of the SC and Oregon fans.
Well, you got to start somewhere. That's what I'm saying. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. It's Wednesday night. It's a hump night. Boy, that's a Freudian slip. Hump day night set of shows for us that we want to cover everything that's been midweek news. And hopefully we can do a really deep dive into Q&A tonight. Besides who you see on the screen right now, I have a couple of open invitations outstanding that they may show up. One of those would be Jason Watkins. The other one I'm going to keep to myself. Nobody knows that but me. So I hope everybody's looking forward to a lively show. Please consider your questions and make sure you contribute them in the comment section so that we can try to answer them. And we'll definitely get to open questions tonight. First of all, I want to, again, thank everybody for being here. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Make sure you follow us all on Twitter. Turn on your notifications on Twitter and on YouTube. And lastly, but not leastly, if you would like to get in touch with us and be a part of the Big 12 Mafia family, you can join us officially and become a paying member. Here are the instructions on how to do that, and we'll cut to the chase.
Become a member of Big 12 Mafia by going to our homepage and hitting the join button located next to the subscribe button in the upper right corner. There are several membership levels to choose from.
I want to thank Moen again for putting that together. And last but not least, I want to really thank everybody that's in the Big 12 Mafia and now college football Mafia families. We have a bit of an announcement tonight. And Pickles, why don't you kind of tell us what we got going on the background for you?
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, a lot of work put in, and I'm excited that we'll be starting a new show coming on Mondays. This upcoming Monday, 5 p.m., we're going to be hosting the Big West Mafia Show, and just giving our take on the West Coast 4N coming from a Husky perspective and a West Coast perspective. We're going to cover that, but as always, we're going to go into Big Ten news and then college football news at large. You know, this is a channel that covers everything, so we're always going to get into it, but I'm just excited to have a chance to give my take and perspective and maybe answer some questions from the far left coast out here that no one seems to hear from. So that'll be exciting.
I can't tell you how excited we are to have you bringing that show to us. And the format of that and who's going to be running it with you is a little up in the air still. We're still working on some details, but yeah. I want to encourage everybody, if you're not already, follow Sergeant Pickles right now. And what's the new address? Let me point that out so that everybody can get to it. Give me 1 second and I'll have that and everybody can know how to find you. All right, there we go. Let me pop that up and make it bigger, actually. Make that. There we go. And There we go. Big West Mafia right there. And right now that's Sergeant Pickles, but there's going to be other people that are going to be associated with that show. Make sure you follow that on your Twitter accounts and then get ready to do that search on YouTube because you're going to be able to directly get to his show link. And I just want to let everybody know we're really proud to have him and the show and the content. More importantly, they're going to give a more centric left coast, I would say Pacific coast swing on the way college football looks. And kind of tell us your format. What are some of the things you might be covering that's different from our regular Mafia shows?
Yeah, so I think yourself, Immaculate Moen, and you do an amazing job being plugged into kind of the heartbeat of college football, you know, the legal stuff going on, the realignment stuff, the big picture. It's going to be a shorter show, maybe about an hour to an hour, you know, stretching it if people have a lot of questions and comments. But ours is pretty much dialing down on partially history. You get to go into, you know, you get a couple of fans' takes on what happened with the Pac-12 and possibly where that's going to lead in the future, but also really a hard look at how are these new teams going to do coming into the Big Ten. It's kind of we've never seen a move on this scale before where 4, pretty powerful brands are going into a top level conference all at once, all in the same season. And like with the Huskies case, with a lot of turnover and turmoil. So it's kind of just throwing it all in a blender. And I think we're going to have fun kind of sifting through it and giving our takes.
Moen, how exciting it is. I'm going to put all these brands up here. I call them IPs, but College Football Mafia, Big 12 Mafia, Big West Mafia, Wild Ute University, and Moen After Dark. Isn't this amazing what we've put together in less than a year?
Less than a year, and we're just getting started.
Yep.
Who knows what Immaculate might do with his time, because he pretty much is the free agent that flows between all of these shows, and we're very, very grateful for the work he does. And I don't want anybody to forget, just because Immaculate doesn't have his own show, I would say he's even more important because he's vital to the success of all these shows, and that's really important for me.
Yeah, he's a permanent co-host on Moen After Dark, so he still kind of has.
And I would
show.
say he's a co-host on College Football Mafia, Big 12 Mafia, and I'm sure he'll be vital to Pickles' show. Would you agree?
I'm definitely going to call him in as a ringer when I hear people talking nonsense, and he can straighten them out for me.
Oh boy, aren't those the best days? I love when he does that. Before we get into anything else, I'm going to start off with thank yous for people being here tonight. Because we don't have such a busy schedule, I want to make sure we shout out people that are here right now and that have been really important to the Mafia family. Let's start with Buckshot Kid. He's the first one in. Says, hello, I'm early. You're not early to us. You're always on time, Buckshot.
He's always early. He's always
early. Timothy Green, another one of our members, says, sounds like another great show. Football, basketball, and explosions. Come on in, college sports fans, and let's have a little fun. I want to really thank Timothy Green for being here. He's been a loyal member for a few months now. And what's most important, and he put it right there in his emoticons, we are basketball, we are football, we are college sports in general. And when you're part of the Mafia family, it extends to all these brands. And so I hope you feel connected. If you're a member of one, you're a member of all. And all the Wild Ute University specials, you have access if you're a paid member. And we really, really want to let people know that those things are important. And for us, they're a big deal. I hope you take advantage of them. BR in the house says, hey, all. He's another member. Jamie Thornton, another member, says, huge breaking news from Greg. Ross Dillinger tweets from Feinbaum. With Sankey, no agreement reached. The 5+7 model is a no-go, no movement. We did hear that. I didn't hear it from Greg, but yeah, we always give Greg Flugar his props for sure. But how important is that, guys? The difference between the 6.6 and the 5.7, we're talking tens of millions of dollars a reach, aren't we?
Yeah, I think everything we know is coming down to who's grabbing for power, who can allocate the most funds into their specific conference. And you can bet if Sankey's, putting his foot down and really stumping for something, he knows that the SEC can take that extra slot, take that extra money. And until he has reason to do otherwise, he's going to keep pushing for it. So
I really agree with that. Moen, what really thinking big around the Big Ten and the thinking of big picture, right, for the bigger two conferences. How big of a deal is this one game?
It's huge. It may limit G5 access moving forward. It's that big. This is, Schultz has went all in on his moonshot. In doing so, he may have screwed over the rest of the G5 on getting access in the future.
So you win the battle, lose the war.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why Schultz has to do it. It's his job to do that, but at the same time, I think there was room for compromise, and nobody wanted to compromise.
Right. Pickles, anything else on that?
I don't understand Schultz trying to stand up and be the big man now that it's a little too late. I mean, he contributed to the PAC's demise the same as all the other presidents, and I understand certain universities did this, that, or the other. But he had the ability to say something long before this, and he's now choosing to try and take the hard line when it's too late. He's picking a battle he can't win instead of trying to fight the battles he can win, which is rebuilding the Pac-12, perhaps keeping himself options open for the ACC, but I don't understand why he's putting so much time and energy into this particular thing. And I know it's like, oh, well, playoff access and this and that. He should just hedge his bets and do everything in his power to make sure G5 has access, because I don't see a scenario where the Pac-12 in its current or expanded form gets one of those auto slots. I just
Right.
don't.
Right. And a lot of people would say, put their hand in the air and say, what's his other choice? What's his other option? And right now he's chosen violence. And I think in a lot of ways this is all he can come up with as a strategy. I don't know. I'm not in his back room. I'm certainly not in the room where them and Oregon State are talking about strategy. But all he's basically doing is throwing down a gauntlet. And look, these other conferences can call his bluff. They'll wait the 2 years. They
Yeah.
don't need to deal with Washington State and Oregon State. They can just say, great, have your one game. It only gets you 2 years. And at the end in 2026, you might be both cut out of access, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a no win. And I feel, I'm a Northwest guy. I know people at Oregon State. I know people at Washington State. If Matt Lovelace was here, he would definitely be talking about what they could do from a Washington State standpoint. And I'm going to get him on a show hopefully very soon to kind of get their thinking on what's going on. But it's a no-win scenario. Even if he backed off, I don't think it's going to endear him to them any more than attacking will.
No, he I don't even think he's in a position to keep his seat at the table in that capacity anymore. And his actions make it seem like he's trying to fight to keep that seat and, sit at the quote unquote big boy table. But unless you're now joining another conference, Big 12, ACC, in which case you probably aren't the representative for your conference anymore. I don't know why you're fighting to sit at that table instead of playing the hand you were dealt.
I completely agree. Now we're over 100 people watching this simultaneous right now. Another 15 or 20 on Twitter. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here tonight. I want to encourage all new people to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're signing up and following us on Twitter, and then turn on your notifications. That way you know when our shows are around. A lot of new people. I would encourage, if you're a new person, ask for help from some of these regulars. They'll explain to you kind of what we do and walk you through how we talk in our comment section, because we have a great group of people that follow us, and we would invite you to become one of those with them. Already, we've got a super chat here from Rock and Rant, a recent new member. We appreciate it, Rock. Says, wow, college football is such a crap show, but you guys are fire. I hope we are. I hope. Thank you, Rock and Ran. I really appreciate it. All right, let's get to some more shout outs here. Conundrum's in the house. He says Sergeant Pickles makes his debut. Must see TV.
Hey,
We've got
people like to watch a car crash in slow motion too. You never know what's going to happen.
We have literally 75 new people since we first gave your introduction. You're going to do this a few more times tonight, Pickles. Tell everybody what you got coming up, the day and the time.
Yeah, starting up, we're going to fire it up hopefully this coming Monday. It's going to be the Big West Mafia Show. It's going to be just me sitting down, my take from, Southeast Alaska, left coast perspective on the 4 schools coming into the Big Ten as a whole, but then obviously hitting all the major college football topics, news of the day, realignment, etc. But I'm excited, perhaps someone coming to something new from an orphan conference. I'd have probably some differing opinions on things than the majority of people in Big 12 and otherwise in college football.
And I want to reinforce, you see the underneath us, there's the new bubble that basically tells everybody all the IPs that we're currently doing and introducing and reintroducing. We encourage you guys to follow every one of those. That would be College Football Mafia, Big 12 Mafia, Big West Mafia, Wild Ute University, and last but certainly not least, that would be Mowing After Dark. Each one of these is going to be under the Mafia branding, and we encourage you not only to follow us, but get active when those shows are around. That's why your notifications are so important, so you know when the different shows are going. All right.
I keep fighting with Ute about this, but he absolutely missed an opportunity to call it Wild Ute University. I still think that's so much better.
Moen helped
no,
with the naming.
he
What do
likes
you
he
think?
likes his.
I did not. My suggestion was if the U fits. That was my suggestion.
I
but
like
then you get
Wild
into that.
Ute University.
It's good. You get into that argument of which U is the U, and everyone raises their hand.
Right. That is the problem with picking just you. There's no doubt about it. Marcus Williams gives us a $2 super chat. Thank you, Marcus, who's also a member, by the way. Kirk literally cut off his nose to spite his face. Yeah, we were just talking about that. That would be Kirk Schultz, Washington State president. And we will get into that in a little while. Let me get some more shout outs. I mean, this is just an awesome night, everybody. Glenn Lumen checking in from the Philippines. Thank you, Glenn. Hope it's beautiful there. I'm sure it is. Let's see here. Antoine Codes, one of our members, says, ready for the show. We're ready for you, Antoine. If I missed him, I don't think so. I already got Conundrum, so I'm going to pass that by. We got Don in Kansas. Yeehaw, another one of our members. Jamie Thornton says, the Big 12 Mafia Network. You got it. Yep, that's where we're at, and it's just going to keep growing. Two Master, who's become a member, and I'm kind of glad he's starting to watch our show and maybe pulling away from one other that I don't particularly like too much. Says Bon Moenvi. Are you a guitarist, Moen?
I'm wanted dead or alive.
Oh, brother.
A steel horse I ride.
That was teed up. If you didn't hit that out of the park, I don't know what you're doing. All right.
Be thankful I didn't sing that.
No, you go ahead and sing if you want to.
No.
Jim F, not a member yet, Jim. You got to take care of that. Says Gig'em. We'd love to have you here, Jim. John Dry, one of our members, says B13 rules. Sorry, that would be B12 rules. So that would be Big 12 rules. And we're glad to have you here, John. Thank you for being a member. Jared Jones, who's been one of our top members for many, many months. Jared, we're very glad to have you here, and I really appreciate your loyalty. Thank you so much. Hola, amigos. I don't speak Spanish. Can you guys say that better than I did?
Hello, friends.
All right, we'll go with that. Casting for Chrome is clapping. Good to have you here, Casting. Also one of our members. Let's see here. Below, we got Randy Taylor saying howdy in a clap. Randy, take care of that membership thing. Daniel Gygax in the house says, hi, everyone. Jay Chapman. Kirk Schultz sitting there with a faraway look in his eye as George Kliavkov whispers in his ear, the pack is salvageable. I've been working on a great TV deal. It's just not on paper yet. Are you post-traumatic stress disorder with some of these things, Pickles?
I think most people need to realize this has been maybe the last year or two for general college football world of seeing how inept our leadership is. This has been more than a decade of just hot garbage. And, Kliavkov, I actually think really didn't do much positive or negative because, it was down the drain at that point.
Right. You dealt a bad hand for sure.
There's an alternate world where the Pac-12 in its diminished form without LA has the Big 12's media deal right now and probably took a few Big 12 schools along for the ride. That future is not so far away from where we are now, and they totally fumbled it. And here we are.
Well, that's because they couldn't make a playoff for nigh on half a decade or so. So I think
the irony that in the last year, the Huskies make it to the national championship.
Boy, go figure is what I say. Jay Chapman, I want to invite you to become a member of the Big 12 Mafia family. Go to the Big 12 Mafia page. In the middle of the page, there's a join button. Click on it. Pick one of those levels. And not only will you be part of the family in total, but you'll also have access to all of our one-off stories. And let me just bring up the page that has those on it. Let me share this so everybody can understand what you don't have access to if you're not a member of the Big 12 Mafia family. Let me bring this up so everybody can see it. And I'll take that comment down. All right, and I'll take the banner down so everybody can see it. All right, so if you are a member, you would have had access to this Wild Ute University, does Florida State fit into the Big Ten? If you were a member, you would have access to this Clemson to the Big Ten. Do they fit? And lastly, but not least, we've got coming up stories covering North Carolina and Miami. And then there's this Wild Ute University, how private equity can be used by Florida State, for that matter, any other school. This is what you don't get access to for a certain period of time, a week or two, that you would be ahead of the curve out in the world, knowing things that not many people do because of the data and the data-driven news and reports that the Wild Ute puts together. I could not be more over the moon with the quality work he does, and I really want to encourage everybody to become a member, if not for a special chat treatment, for the access to these backstories. Do you guys want to add anything to that?
Yeah, we've got more coming up too. We've got that Clemson want to go public on Friday, and that'll be replaced with the latest episode of Wild Ute University, which is going to be focusing on North Carolina's fit in the Big Ten. And I've seen a little sneak peek of it, and some people are going to be surprised. I think some people are going to be surprised when they see that video.
At the end of the day, what we will really want to sell here is knowledge. We're not telling you what to think. We don't do that here. We're not going to set up news stories and tee them up for you guys to just follow what we say. We're going to provide the data and then invite you to question it, come back at us with questions, and in the public eye, that means in Twitter, we're not afraid of anything we report. We admit when we're wrong, but we don't tell you what to think. And that's what you gain if you're a new viewer here. And so tell your friends and family, because we're doing something special not many others are doing. In fact, I can only name one other show that does it the way that we do it. All right, let's get to some more here. Summit Hawk's in the house. Good to have you here, Summit Hawk. Hey, gents and gals, I appreciate you being a member, Summit Hawk. There's your shout out. Let's get to some more. Outlaw of college football. Jason Watkins, a.k.a. the Marshmallow, is a joke. Well, I personally think Jason Watkins is one of my friends. So you're not going to hear us talk bad about him. You might not like him, Outlaw, but around here we respect what he has to say. And I invite you to stick around and let's get into a conversation. When he's here, I'd be happy to bring you on the show and we could talk about what you think is really important that he needs to questions he can answer, because I'm sure he might have some for you. So I invite you to stick around. Obviously, we love to have you here and invite you to become a member as well. Don Scruggs says, "What's up, y'all?" Let's see. What's up, y'all? SEC fan here. We're glad to have you here, Don. Thank you so much for being here. And we invite you to become a member, a frequent, paid or not. We love to have you. Let's see here. Irvin Williams giving us the old hatchet for Florida State. Good to have you here, Irvin. Let's see. Get to some more. Jamie Thornton. This is actually marked by Moen for me. The Big 12 Mafia Network. I DM you the message put out by Dellinger. Kurt Schultz doing his best, Beastie Boys, by trying to sabotage the G5 or G6, depending on how you feel it. We'll get to that article, Jamie. Thank you very much for that, though. I appreciate it. Coy says, "Hi, all." He's another member. Opie Didon, not a member. What's up with that, Opie? Immaculate is the ethnic man of YouTube.
You are correct, sir.
We like that. That's a good comparison, and I think he would appreciate it. Let's see here again. Two Master says top shelf content. We appreciate it again. Big Ten fan, ha ha ha, Opie. So he's laughing at that comment about Immaculate, I guess. Good to have you here, Big Ten fan. I invite you to become a member. Marcus Williams, again, hey all. Daniel Gygax. Only other time big brands from a conference left to form another conference might be when the Southwest Conference fell apart. What do you guys think about that?
That's true. It's probably the best comparable example to my mind. I mean, the Big East separation to form the ACC, etc., was a little different because you still had the Big East carry on. They just decided, the two halves and factions of it decided they wanted to do separate things. I'd say the Southwest Conference fell apart, not because I don't know necessarily that it was because other conferences were trying to poach members, but it felt like they all just got sick of each other and went their separate ways. All the Texas schools could not stand each other.
Well, we certainly know that Texas and Texas A&M did not get along. There's no doubt about that.
No.
Moen, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I plugged this channel a couple weeks ago, but I would recommend it again. The Lukes, Dalukes on YouTube. Guy does fantastic histories of conferences. Definitely check him out. I think he has one on the Southwest Conference now, but he
Right.
has conferences that never even existed. The Airplane Conference and
That's a
all
good one.
these, yeah, the theoretical conferences that he's discussing on there let you know that realignment isn't anything new, guys. This has been going on for 100 years.
No, I'd encourage people to definitely look at the Airplane Conference, because when this whole Washington, USC, UCLA thing came into being, that was the best comp I could tell people who didn't know the history. Because back in the day, the Airplane Conference was going to be, I want to say, Cal, USC, UCLA, Stanford, Washington, and then like Air Force, Army, Navy, Syracuse, and Penn State. It was
Penn
crazy.
State.
And that was the Airplane Conference, literally, because they'd be doing cross-country travel. And nowadays, that's just commonplace, kind of a sign of the times.
Sorry, let me get this posted here. Let's see. There we go. The Airplane Conference I thought was a joke until I actually saw the breakdown, and it was a real thing. So anyway, we appreciate you, Daniel. Thank you. Jack, I'm not sure I know you, Jack. You're welcome to the channel. Good to see you. Hope you become a returning member. Believe me, I love to see a guy named Jack in our day-to-day. That'd be awesome. He says SEC wants 4 teams. Okay. What are those 4 teams? Pickles, SEC wants 4 teams. What are they?
The $200 million question, which 4?
I'm asking you.
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah.
I'm pretty chalk on this, because I actually think it's more of a hassle. The SEC is reactionary right now, because I think they'd be perfectly content to stay at 16. I felt that for a long time. We're the SEC. We're special. We have everything we need. You're all just playing catch up. And then they said, okay, Texas, Oklahoma, cool. You're cool enough to be in the cool kids club. And then they had the LA schools go to Big Ten. I think they raised their eyebrows a little bit. Then Washington and Oregon, they said, oh, okay, this is starting to tip away from us.
Right.
And with the shape the ACC is in, it has the possibility of really tipping in the Big Ten's favor if they can fish out an FSU. If they could get FSU Notre Dame in some hypothetical, then SEC's on red alert, because you have the possibility of having the Big Ten put more teams into the playoff the majority of years over you. That they're going to have more teams than you. And that's not acceptable to Greg Sankey. It's exactly why he's fighting the 5-7, 6-6 thing now.
So are you saying Notre Dame, Florida State, North Carolina, Virginia?
I would say I kind of got sidetracked at that because it's all wrapped into one. My immediate take is that the SEC will take the North Carolina and Virginia schools. I don't actually think they're very interested in the Virginia schools, but it's more of a legal hassle to separate those than, for example, Oregon State, Oregon, Washington State, Washington. They actually seem to be some legal weight behind those and some political power to really keep those together. And you're now pulling 2 brand new states, 2 brand new markets, and the Big Ten's going to argue that they control DC, which it matters. It matters controlling where our government is run from, even in college football. And having Virginia and Virginia Tech gives the SEC even more weight in that region. So it kind of makes sense from that perspective, even though from a basic football perspective, Virginia and Virginia Tech really don't seem to carry the weight.
Right.
But you're securing North Carolina and Virginia. You're boxing out the Big Ten. So it's almost like the real benefit for the SEC is you're denying your main competitor those markets and those schools rather than what they would necessarily bring to you, if that makes sense. So those would be my 4 to the SEC. The Big Ten, on the other hand, FSU seems like the chalk, the easy, the no-brainer. I was on the Georgia Tech train. That's one for you, Moen. I was on that train for a long time.
Where's this
And,
alcohol?
But it's hard to argue with the Godfather about if he thinks he's really hearing the smoke about Miami. It's hard to argue
Right.
with him. Miami was always, it seemed to really be that second group of three. Is it going to be Clemson because of the football pick? Is it going to be Georgia Tech because the research argument wins out and the Big Ten, academic side gets their way? Or is it going to be Miami because of the market and the potential and the history and all of Miami's kind of a combo of the two in a sense. To me, it was really between those three, Clemson, Georgia Tech, and Miami, to be that partner for Florida State. Notre Dame can totally blow that thing up by just taking the jump early. Right. But I still think they're hesitating. I think they're going to actually be forced into a corner where being independent is a huge weight around them as far as trying to get playoff access.
Moen.
SEC does not want 4 teams. They want 2 teams.
Yep.
And I don't think they're going to take 4. I've begun to realize, I think that this is a play. I think when it gets to the point where it looks like North Carolina and Virginia are going to get left behind, I think that they will relent and allow those schools to travel without North Carolina State and Virginia Tech. But they're going to have to pay them some money every year, just like they do with Calamoni.
Right.
To have Carolina money and Virginia money.
Okay. And do you want to? Might as well say it now. The Big Ten. If it was, what is? Are they 2? Are they 4? Are they 6?
Right now, they're 2.
Okay.
Florida State and probably Miami.
Okay. I'll give you mine. Not that anybody asked, because I'm in charge. The SEC, in my mind, I do only think needs 2. I don't think they want anything to do with Miami or Clemson. In fact, whichever one of those schools gets left out of the Big Ten, I don't think gets the ride up top like they want. I think they're going to end up in the remainder school is going to be in the Big 12. That's just my opinion. We heard last night from a Miami guy that they might want to reconstitute the ACC. I don't know what that looks like unless they can get Notre Dame to commit. So from an SEC perspective, I think it's North Carolina and Virginia or none. That's kind of where I see it. And then the Big Ten, I'm on record as Florida State. And if they don't need a travel partner, it might just be Florida State. Notre Dame has an open invite and they would go, and they are being squeezed like I explained last night. I don't think it's an accident they were left out of these meetings with the SEC and Big Ten. And no matter what people want to talk about being covered up, that NBC and CBS weren't named in those directly, I think that's a big deal. Even though they're part of the Big Ten contract, currently they don't have Notre Dame in them. So I just think Florida State could go by itself. They could go with Notre Dame. Maybe they want Clemson, but I think that's a reach. And North Carolina is the only other school I think that they might have interest in. Oh, I'm sorry, Miami. I skipped Miami. They may have interest in Miami. That's what Greg has said. I know Moen's backed that up a little bit from what he's been hearing. That still seems a reach to me, even if Fox wants them. So it'll be interesting for sure. All right. Thank you, Jack. Let's see here. Jamie Thornton, here's a good comment. The G5 schools could be really shafted from all this. I mean, like left out completely. So let's imagine 2026 and that negotiation starts now. Do we see a world where it's only the autonomous conferences that get any preferred access? Everybody else is just fighting for general access. What do you guys think about that?
My take on that has been, if you're going to the lengths of saying G5, you are now a lower subdivision because
right.
you are not going to make the playoff. You're just not. I mean, you could have they could try and make the argument, oh, you're going to have some special miraculous team like Boise that at one point was ranked possibly high enough to get into, let's say, a 16-team playoff.
Right.
They're going to try and pitch that, but the G5s they're just going to tell them we're going to, I would say take your ball and go home, but why would they agree to schedule the power conferences out of conference if you're not going to let them even have access to a playoff? They might as well just go combine with the FCS and have their own playoff in that sense. They might as well create their own subdivision. And if you're going to that length where you're actually boxing them out completely rather than just making it really difficult, which is what it is now, just separate the power conferences and the power schools into their actual defined, self-governed own subdivision. The ones that want to pay the big money and play at the top and do all that stuff, just separate it, because boxing out the G5, you're just doing it, it's just de facto separation anyways. You're just trying to keep up the illusion that all 130 odd teams have a real shot at the top. And that's just not true.
Yeah. Why codify it if you don't have to? Right.
Yeah.
Moen.
Yeah, they're not going to completely eliminate them. They're just going to get rid of the auto bid.
Right.
If you want to be in, you got to be top 12, which for a G5 school is going to be next to impossible to achieve.
Very unlikely.
Yeah, it's very unlikely. So they're not going to remove access. They're just going to say we're taking the 12 best. And if you want to be in there, be one of the 12 best.
Yeah. My take has also been, I just going off the Moen, I think they go to 16 almost immediately, because the money draw from those extra games, especially home site, where you're going to get maximum atmosphere, maximum intensity. You'll have away fans traveling. I actually despise the neutral site games before the championship. I know that they have contractual obligations, and it's the New Year's Six, and Washington just played in the Sugar Bowl, right? I get it. It was very, very cool. It does not have the same juice that a home site game would, where you're going to fill that stadium to the absolute gills and everyone's going to be screaming. And the more layers of playoffs you add, like let's say the quarterfinal, semifinal, and then championship game are all neutral site, which I think is how it's set up now, or they were pitching in a 16 team. No one's going to go to that first game. How many fans have the money to schedule 3 consecutive away trips with hotel and airfare and all that stuff? It's a very limited amount of people that have the want to do that. And if you have the same teams going every year, they're just like, oh, well, I'll see you at the championship, or I'll see you at the semifinal. They're going to be horribly attended. It's going to look bad on TV. It's not going to have the energy. I want as many home site games as I can get in that playoff.
You want to add anything to that, Moen?
I don't know that we're going to go to 16 right away. I know the Big Ten's floated it, but I think there's a difference between floating it and actually having the passion to actually see it through. I think the Big Ten's floating it out there to try and get some leeway from some people. But we'll see. I mean, it very well could go to 16. It very well could shrink to 8. Entirely possible this shrinks back down to 8.
Yeah. It's easier to sell that G5 on giving them their carrot and giving them their auto bid spot when it's 16 also.
Yeah.
I think 16 is the number. I know the rationale behind the 8, but I just think there's too much money in those games that for the networks and for the conferences. I think the bigger question, and this is something we've talked about it and we've sort of come at it from different angles before, but let's talk about this right now since it's at the top of my mind. Why are we even having championship games? Because at this point, if it's 16 teams, nobody gets a bye, and the teams that are the champions or the best at each league have to play an extra game, well, everybody else gets a bye week by not being in that championship game. Why have the championship game at all? What do you guys think about that?
Go ahead, Moen.
No, if you're going to 16, you have to get rid of conference championship games.
That's what I've seen.
It doesn't make sense at that point. You don't want to push one of your teams out of the tournament by having a loss.
Right.
You can do just like the Big Ten used to do. You just say who the conference champion is, and if there's a tie, you just say they're conference co-champions.
Right.
But yeah, if you go to 16, you have to eliminate that conference championship game.
Pickles, you think?
I would tend to agree. I'd say the overwhelming favorite would be to get rid of it, because your schools, I mean, Immaculate's kind of argued that the conference wants to have that control, and he's even advocated for a reduced college football playoff to 8 teams, like you're saying, and an expanded conference tournament more akin to a basketball style at the end of the year, where the conference has control over 3 games instead of 2, and they get all the revenue coming in, et cetera, et cetera. But just from, again, my outside perspective, being a Pac guy, going to the SEC and Big Ten, I barely cared about their conference champions they were great games, and I watched a few
Right.
of them, but I didn't care because I cared what team was going to be in the playoff. I watched the playoff games because, oh, I get to see Alabama play Clemson the first time. I get to see Oklahoma play some. I get to see teams that do not often match up. Those are to the teams that aren't involved, to casual fans, to fans of other teams that aren't part of the Big Ten and the SEC and don't necessarily have a rooting interest. Those interconference battles of major brands, that will draw so much more of just the casual fan. Your hardcore guy is going to watch. They're just going to turn it on all the time.
Right.
So I really don't advocate for I understand why we have a conference championship game, but to me, the money you would make in doing SEC, Big 10, SEC, Big 12, Big 10, Big 12, ACC, whoever matchups in an expanded college football playoff, I think you'd actually end up generating more money than just playing your proper conference championship game.
Yeah, I agree. Moen, I see that. That's really cool. Thank you for telling me that. We got another super chat here from Chris Hughes. Thank you, Chris. You're not a member. What's up with that? Anyway, I think when the bye teams and the ADs see how much money and excitement that the home games will generate, the bye teams will want to play. That's an interesting tack on it. What do you guys think about that?
Oh, no doubt. They'll want
Yeah.
that. They'll want that money. Yeah. They'll want that money, but at the same time, they want a national championship more.
Right.
So they will want the extra rest that they're going to be able to put on their team. That's going to help because I mean, honestly, buys help teams. If you take a look at you know, the NFL playoffs, it's usually your top seeds are who end up making. I know they've changed it now to where there's only one bye in the NFL, but previously it was usually one of your top two seeds made it in.
Right.
And I think a lot of that was due to the bye.
Yeah, I agree with that. You want to say anything else to that, Pickles?
Yeah. I definitely think the agreement to go to 12, because even when they decided the very first time I heard about the CFP is coming, thank goodness, we're getting rid of BCS, and in retrospect, BCS wasn't that bad.
Right.
But we're going to 4 teams. I'm like, okay, you have 5 conferences. Why are you going to 4 teams?
That was so stupid. I never understood that.
I advocated for 8 from the very beginning. I said 8, play home site games, give out a couple of, give out the 5 auto bids, give your 1 G5, and give your 2 at large. That would get in all of the major powers that you care about, because either they're going to be a big brand that's selected to, more years than not, those at large spots. But the other teams, they're conference champions. They're really good teams. They're probably going to get you a pretty darn good product on the field. And the people I've seen criticizing a 12 team and even a 16 team playoff, oh, blowouts. Okay, you're not actually going to do anything to reduce or stop those, but they're going to happen in the first round or the second round, not in your semifinal, not in your final. The chances in an expanded playoff of you having a really lopsided game down the stretch. And if somebody wants to point to Washington, Michigan, that was a 7-point game in the fourth, despite how the final score turned out. But you could push those kinds of lopsided games back. So where your teams that are truly playing the best at the very end of the year are going to match up in the championship. That was why I preferred to go to it over the 4.
I think as NIL becomes mature and every school uses it the way that the big boys have been using it from the jump, I think that moderation between 12 and 5 or 16 and 5, the difference in those teams is going to be marginal at best. I think you're really going to start seeing where the quality begins to spread out more. Right now, it's in the hands of 5 or 6 teams. You could easily, in 5 years, it could be up to 12, 14 teams that are basically all one percentage point separated in talent and skill level. So I just think that with NIL, I think that moderates this, and long term, it's going to help competition as well.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Big Ten fan says it may not, if at all. G5 is for the 5-7 except Schultz. Maybe they all excommunicate Wazoo. I don't know about that. That's funny, but I don't think Wazoo is already on the outside looking in. I'm not sure you could do much more to him. to make them more uncomfortable. Facts over fandom, not a member. Facts. You got to take care of that, man. By 2026, it'll be the P2 and G7. I don't agree with that. Why don't you
Yeah.
guys put your ideas out, and then I'll do mine last.
It's already a de facto, as I've labeled it, just Super 2, the A4, and then the G, however many, right? I don't think you're actually going to take away the autonomous status of, unless the ACC actually implodes and loses a bunch of teams and really just becomes untenable. But the Big 12 isn't going to lose that. Why am I blanking on the word? The A status. They're not autonomous. There we go. Yep. Sorry about that. No, they're not going to lose the autonomous status. They're a stable conference, and it's understood and accepted that there's a power two in football. There's a two conferences that really hold the chips when it comes to deciding what happens with football. But when it comes to the autonomous conference powers and abilities, that actually extends to the entire university in all sports, which is why the Big 12 isn't going to lose it. It's why it's unlikely in the ACC, as long as they don't just hemorrhage more than 6 members. But I think the ACC has a possibility. I'm on the immaculate train of the ACC rebuilding into something completely different. So yeah, facts over fandom. You're pretty much right. It's a power 2 in football. We understand it's a power 2, but that doesn't automatically relegate the Big 12 and ACC into G5 status. They're going to have more influence and authority because they still have schools that draw numbers and get TV ratings. They do.
Moen.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. The ACC that rebuilds and the Big 12 that's left, there's so many good brands in there. You can't do away with it and just say, oh, we're going to limit their access. But yeah, the Big 10 and the SEC are going to be, they have the most brands. They've accrued the most brands and the most well. That doesn't mean that the Big 12 and the ACC are worthless.
I just remembered, and I made a note, 2 things. First of all, we had a super chat last night from Scott White for $20. $20 super chat from Scott White last night that came in after the show ended. I told him that I'd give him recognition. I'd written it down even before he asked. If you do a super chat and I miss it, I'll send you one of our rally towels, okay? And on that note, I need to apologize to people. And this is all my memory, folks. I'm sorry. I'm an old man. I don't have the greatest memory, but I still have to send out to winners of the college football playoff the competition we did in over the holidays for the bowl games. I need to send that out to the first, second, and third winners. I also owe a helmet to the winner of that, and then I owe some rally towels to people. So if you haven't received a rally towel from me, and I told you were going to get one, please send me a DM on Twitter, and I'll make sure to get one out to you. I'm going to have to do one big shipment to people, and I made a mistake, and I'm owning up for it, and I'll make and do better. And following along that, did I send you one, Pickles? Do you have one of my rally towels?
No, I'm sure I could fit it somewhere along.
Okay, all right. I honestly thought I did send you one. So you'll have to DM me your address, and I'll put you on that list. Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, let's keep going. Rock and Rant says, can't keep your head on a swivel if they are breaking all the swivels with the firehouse of news. That's obviously a reference to Greg Flugar, who's one of our inspirations for sure. Michigan, let's see, 19 national championships and 45 conference championships. Moen, how does that sit with you?
Need to put an asterisk on there.
Okay. He says, love seeing the Pacific Northwest representing. I love it too. I think it's great.
That's about as much Pacific Northwest as I can fit into a background.
Let's get moving down more here. Tuffy Duffy says, love show guys. Just starting watching a couple months ago. Keep up the good work. Go Blue. New defensive coordinator coming in for the pros soon. Who is that DC for Michigan?
Who knows?
I haven't seen anything in particular. I know that UW has been targeting a NFL experience defensive coordinator as well. So
okay, all right, yeah, maybe if you know Tuffy Duffy, if you know who that might be, put it in the comments, and Moen will flag it for me, and we'll definitely let everybody know what that is. But I appreciate you being here, though. A couple months, that's a long time. Thank you for being a member. We invite you to becoming a paying member of the Big 12 Mafia family. Anybody can do that just by hitting the join button in the middle of the Big 12 Mafia page on YouTube and pick your tier and join the club, as I like to say. Let's see here. Moving down the line here. Boy, we've had so many comments so quick, guys. Rock and Rant. Raise your hand if you have a top 5 recruiting class on top of a top 10 recruiting class, but you're irrelevant. But also if your coach needs to take a knee. Who are we talking about there, guys?
That's Miami.
Why is that funny, Pickles?
I gotta say, I really miss Mario Cristobal. I like seeing that guy. He was so much fun to have up here at Oregon. And he beat the Huskies a couple times at our lowest point. But, man, he is Oregon to a T. And it's hilarious to see him continue at Miami. Oregon is the recruiting class kings. They're like Texas A&M, but they don't actually win championships. It's fantastic.
I love it. Moen, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, who did they not take a knee against?
Wasn't it Boston College or something?
It was Georgia Tech.
Oh, Georgia Tech. Drinking game. For everybody who doesn't know, whenever Georgia Tech has been said on this show, Moen does a drink, and he invites other people to drink. Don't drive. And we're not encouraging anybody to drink in excess. Very, very small cups. But that's something he enjoys to do. So let's move on down the line here. Steve Ojai, Florida. In the house. Good to see you, Steve. He says Klyavkov was dealt a bad hand, ? Reports say he had the same deal as the Big 12. Seems to suggest he didn't know how to play the cards he was dealt, along with all of the other delusions in the pack. What do you say to that, Pickles?
Yeah, I feel like I kind of addressed that. Maybe I misspoke on how I phrased it. So Klyavkov, I don't think did a great job. The commissioner takes the flack for the presidents. That's actually his job, is to be the whipping boy. So when everyone says, oh, well, Klyavkov fumbled it, he couldn't get the deal done, the presidents have to okay him to do the deal. He does not make the decision. Right. Could he have pressed for it more? Could he have? And there's the report of the professor that did some calculation and fed it in his ear and the president's ears that they're worth $50 million a season. I don't know what kind of math we're teaching out here these days, but it sure as heck ain't any math that makes sense to me on TV networks. But yeah, Klyavkov was dealt a bad hand because he basically took over a ship that's got 2 holes blown in the bottom of it. And did he bail any water? No. Is it 100% his fault? No. So that's kind of what I meant. He didn't do the Pac-12 any favors, but ultimately it comes down to the presidents making decisions for the conference and for their universities. And the presidents that had other options, they decided those were better off than taking whatever deal was left in the Pac-12.
You want to add anything to that, Moen?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. He had the same opportunity, but he had the wrong people in his ear telling him to overplay a pocket threes. Yeah. Just because you have a pocket pair doesn't mean you got to play them, guys.
Right.
It's pocket threes, fold. Especially when people are raising against you, fold.
Yeah. In a way, this is kind of a zero-sum game because the networks only have so much money to toss around. It's not this unlimited pool they're going to start throwing everywhere. So every dollar that someone else is getting is a dollar that you cannot have.
Very true. I appreciate that. We'll get to another super chat here from Ryan Willie. Good to have you here, Ryan. He's one of our members. He says, the only reason that I watch conference championships is that halftime football toss. Who doesn't love the Dr. Pepper field goal kick or whatever the latest thing is?
If they didn't shuttle pass it straight forward through, I'd be a little more interested.
That's true. It did change, didn't it?
I get it. If it works and they win the money, I can't be too mad at them for getting their dollars, but it is not aesthetically pleasing. I'll say that. It's not Joe Montana out there slinging the ball.
It is not. Moen, go ahead.
So we got this from Greg Flugar coming in. Matt Baker apparently updated his article on the Tampa Bay newspaper. According to him, Florida State Board of Trustees did not sign the grant of rights, according to the Florida State lawyers. Board of Trustees needs to sign it, not just the Florida State president.
I think that's really important because we saw some of that conflict with the Pac-12 and Pickles. I think you could probably tell us that in firsthand, but I know for a
Yeah.
fact there was some disagreement between whether the AD could sign it, the chancellor, if it had to be the president, and there was a lot of conflict. Boy, the Pac-12 really knew how to screw up a good thing.
Yeah, and that exists in every conference because you have different state laws that govern these things, different setups of board of regents and board of governors. Some of them control multiple universities in the state. Some of them only control one university in the state, and the other has a totally separate. And the private schools have their entirely own set. So I think that's why it's so convoluted. But you would really think someone like the ACC would have their ducks in a row as far as this school needs these people by law to sign off for this to be valid. These schools need these people, so on and so forth. So if this is true in the way they're saying, I think it's a total failure. It looks bad on both of them because in a world where Florida State hasn't been screwed over and is trying to get out, they didn't do their due diligence to make sure that their paperwork was filed correctly, that they're actually part of the conference they say they are.
Right.
And the ACC didn't have the wherewithal to double check and make sure, same thing, that everything's in order. So it's a failure on both parties. I don't know, obviously this is just breaking news. I'm going to take it at its face value just for this argument. And if they're going to argue that we never signed anything legally binding, I don't know if that gets them out. That doesn't get them out scot-free, but it might get them out in a hurry.
Yeah, okay. I'll go ahead and read what Matt put. Florida State's most interesting argument focuses on the ACC's grant of rights. The document at the center of this potential $500 million dispute, the ACC contends that Florida State and every other member knowingly and voluntarily granted the irrevocable TV rights to their home games to the conference. The conference then sold them to ESPN and passed the funds back to FSU and its peers. FSU's latest filing argues that the school's trustees never signed or approved the grant of rights. It was only signed by the university president. That's important because according to Florida State, its board is the only entity with legal authority to contract and be contracted with.
Can you share the link to that article and put it in the comment section so that everybody has access to it, Moen?
I can, but you're going to need a Tampa Bay subscription to read it.
Oh, that's right. This was locked down. That's right. I had forgotten about that. It is behind a paywall, everybody. But one thing we try to do is at least be really open to what we, show you, and we can provide the link, and that's the best we can do.
I'll provide the link.
Okay. I want to welcome to I don't have a stage here. I just have a party. Jason Watkins, Hall of Fame, college football. How we doing, Jason?
What's up, fellas? How we doing?
Good.
Howdy. Jason, you'll like this real quick. I got this on just for you, man.
My man.
There you go.
Horns down. There you go.
Hey, your horns down. That's been
What's up, Pickles? How you doing, man? Good to see you.
Doing great, man.
Good.
So Jason wanted to be part of the party tonight, so we're glad he was able to give us some time. Everybody's on a stopwatch tonight, Jason, so we're trying to get through a bunch of comments tonight. Just letting you know that's where we're at. We're letting them speak more than us, really. Honestly.
Very cool.
Before we get into any more comments, tell everybody who you are, what you do, and what you represent.
Okay. Jason Watkins, Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. Me and the coach, we go on every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern Time, and we talk college football pretty much around the country. Kind of starting to do some different things. I know you and I have been talking about a little bit where we're going to kind of more focus some of the content and kind of get some other stuff out there for our folks. I mean, we want to add content to what we're doing and jump into I know for, the Oklahoma side of things, jump into the SEC feet first and get after it, So we're ready to go. But yeah, we're exciting time. It looks like got a bunch of stuff going on. As far as I'm kind of was really wanting to talk to you guys. I wanted to see what your thoughts were on this new streaming partnership between, rivals up until
Right.
yesterday.
Yeah, let's dive into that. We spent quite a bit of time on it last night. There was a lot of people that were looking to hear news about that. For our sakes, and I'll speak for myself. I'll let Moen cover his angle. But basically, what we take from it is that it's going to be a hard deal to beat, right? ESPN, Fox, and Warner Brothers, which is HBO, which is Max now. Those are three just monsters, giants in the industry, and NBC and CBS. And I saw today Bob Thompson put a note out that said they are talking. NBC and CBS are talking about doing their own thing. I find it remarkable that they were cut out, weren't invited. But this won all for all of those things. And I'll try to find the list that we put out last night, but it's significant, the number of brands that are associated with that. And I don't think it's a small thing. Moen, do you want to add anything to that?
I don't think it's a shock that NBC was cut out. NBC is owned by Comcast, which is the largest.
Positive that it is going to be completely. I don't know that they'll be in it, but from what I saw Bob Thompson on a show a little bit earlier today, and he was talking about that he believes that there could still be some people that are added into this group. I don't know that they would be added in at the same deal or whatever, but I think that they might still integrate some other networks that you could see CBS kind of come into the mix there a little bit. I understand what you're saying about the Comcast deal for sure. But I do believe that, and you might even see when you've got, he was thinking that you would probably see more linear partners in it, but less possibility of like an Amazon or an Apple or somebody like that being in on it, because I think you're seeing the linear partners are kind of wanting to cut them out, if anything, right?
Well, Moen, go ahead and finish what you were saying.
Well, I was going to say Comcast is the largest cable provider in America. The last thing they want is for ESPN and Fox and all these to do that. That's what's saving their cable packages right now. That's keeping them afloat. So obviously they're not going to be very pro this. As far as the rest of it goes, I think it's a good deal initially, until it's just we're running in a cycle. This is going to be the new cable. You're going to have 50 instead of having one cable package. You're going to have 15 bundles, and you got to hope that they don't raise the price, which they inevitably will. At the end of the year, they'll raise the price, and we'll just be starting into this all again until they figure out how to beam it directly into your brain, and then they'll do this again and they'll raise the price. So
cable was cheap whenever it started too, and even like YouTube TV was like $20. Now it's $70.
OPD Don gives us a super chat, says, how in the world could ESPN not know that FSU did not sign the Gore as well, since they are the ones showing their games? Do you guys know exactly what data point he's talking about?
What he's saying, Florida State's Board of Trustees is claiming they have to sign that contract.
Oh, okay. All right.
The president signed the contract. So he thinks that ESPN should know that they should be contracting with the Board of Trustees. I don't know how much this is going to fly in court, because listen, Florida State's been taking that money since this deal. Yeah. You can't claim now that, oh, hey, we took this money for the last 7 years, but we didn't deserve it, so let us go.
Pickles, what do you think?
That's kind of what Tim was saying last night. Tim Fitzgerald was like, if I with my channel, if I'm not upholding copyright stuff ever, and then all of a sudden I sue somebody and I haven't been, enforcing my copyrights and stuff, and then now all of a sudden I want to sue somebody because they're a big company and I can get money out of it, they're not going to do it. It'd be the same type of deal.
So Pickles, when we're talking about ESPN getting along with Max or Warner Brothers, getting along with Fox, you're talking like this is like a killer and be killed situation, isn't it, for these broadcast partners?
Well, it's been implied that NBC and CBS basically they're struggling, they're hemorrhaging money, and that sports are their only valuable property. And in order to keep those things like their NFL package, they've overbid and actually kind of compounded the problem, because now they're not getting returns on the one property they have that should be profitable.
Right.
I don't think they can afford to run. They have their streaming services, I think Peacock and the other one, right? Or,
right. Warner
NBC
Brothers
and
is
CBS.
Max. Yeah.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
So I don't think they could put together something that's competitive and make a realistic bid on it. And as soon as the news came out with this, and it included Fox and ESPN, I immediately, my kind of tinfoil hat radar went off that I think they went out of their way to sabotage the possibility of Apple securing a Pac-12 deal, because even at a reduced rate, that Apple was boom or bust. You know, there's a possibility that Apple, just because it's at, blackout free, fixed price, access everywhere, that it could have done better than projected. And what we're seeing right now is that ESPN and Fox have faith. Oh yeah, we can put stuff on streaming and have it be profitable. The NFL games that have been on Peacock, I think, have what really tipped the scale to say, oh, your audience is going to go find the product they're searching for if you give it to them, widespread access. And we've seen all these regional cable networks dying because you get people that live in other parts of the country. They want blackout free, unlimited access. I want to watch my team anywhere in the country for this price and just pay it and not have to worry about it. They want the convenience.
Sunday ticket.
Yeah, Sunday ticket, exactly. And I think that's the demand that SEC and the Big Ten are trying to meet, because they see other providers like YouTube TV or Sling TV that kind of piecemeal these things together, which is what I actually use to watch, because we got rid of cable a few years ago when I realized I have all of these streaming services and cable.
Right.
And I realized I really didn't need the cable. I've already
You're a bit oversubscribed, right? I'm in the same boat. I think most people are. Before we I have a question for Jason next. Before we do that, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. It's Wednesday night, hump day night. We're glad to have you, everybody, here. Make sure you follow all of us on Twitter. Turn on your notifications for Twitter and YouTube, and then make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Big 12 Mafia, College Football Mafia. Let me quickly give a video on how you can become a member of the family.
Become a member of Big 12 Mafia by going to our homepage and hitting the join button located next to the subscribe button in the upper right corner. There are several membership levels to choose from.
And we want to invite everybody to do that. That's how you get access to our back end stories. And it's really important for you to stay at the front of all these news items that come out. And unfortunately, I just killed myself. I knocked away the question. Give me 1 second. Where the hell did that go? I took the wrong thing down. I apologize, guys. Oh, here it is. No, that wasn't it either. I'll come back to it.
Thanks for the 20 super chat, Opie. I want to give you your clapping sound.
Oh, please do that.
Okay.
Appreciate you, brother.
Why don't you do this one too, Moen?
Nice.
Winner.
Explain to everybody what those gifts are.
Those are gifted memberships to the channel that Summit Hawk has gifted to 5 people within the channel. If you received one of those gifts, please make sure you thank Summit Hawk. He is an absolute legend around here. The man has excellent taste in whiskey. Insane Mob was gifted a membership. CHJ229 was gifted a membership. Clint Moses was gifted a membership. Bo Stacker was gifted a membership. Jason Johnson was gifted a membership by our very own Santa Claus, Summit Hawk. Make sure you thank Summit Hawk in the chat, guys. Appreciate you.
He was on our show last night for a little while last night too. Yeah, he joined our show for a little while last night.
He is legendary. Legendary. So I've got those names, Moen. We got Insane Mob, CHJ229, Clint Moses, Bo Stacker, and Jason Johnson. Thank you so much, you guys, for becoming new members of the Big 12 Mafia family. And I would encourage everybody to consider, if you get one, give one. Because if somebody's putting their resources in to give you something, pay it forward and do that yourself. All right, I screwed myself. I cannot find that next comment. So, Jason, did you ever reply to anything that Pickles or Moen just mentioned?
on which
No.
which
Forget about it, 'cause I can't remember what it was either. I'll ask you this
SEC
question.
Fox streaming platform.
Oh yeah, the SEC Fox
Oh.
streaming. Yeah, do you have anything more you wanted to add to that?
No, not really. I think it's still up in the air. I think that the first thing that you want to know is what the price is. But it looks like, to me, I feel like the one thing that you've hated, if you're a consumer, and that is having to get out of one app and get into another one, and that it's not easy to find everything, you know. And
Right.
even for, people that are very well versed in streaming, which I think most of us here have gotten used to being able to stream and doing some of that, and we've probably got a lot of overlap in certain places or whatever. But I think that this is an opportunity for you to make this much more user friendly for the consumer. And Bob Iger, I saw something from him earlier this morning, I believe, and he was talking about how it was going to be much more immersive and interactive for the
Right.
consumer, for the ESPN consumer. I think that I want to be able to just see tiles that have, every game. And the beauty of this is that this app is a sports app. Now, you still will have Hulu, I think, and you'll still have that other stuff, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be packaged together. And I think that the packaging is probably as big a part of it as anything, don't you guys?
For Bob Thompson to come out and say he was shocked that they were able to get together, yeah, I think that's a big deal. Anytime you get a heavyweight like that who lives and breathes this, built it in some cases, it's I think I would almost say it's earth shattering from a broadcast perspective. You have these mortal enemies. And if anybody thinks this is something I wanted to get all three of you, and then I know we're gonna have to let Pickles go. He's got twins at home that he's gonna have to take care of. But this is my walk away question for Pickles, and then you guys can answer as well. Is does anybody think it was an accident that this news came 2 days after we found out that the big in the SEC were colluding on sort of next steps for college football? Just put your hand up if you thought that was just an accidental partnership in those things.
There aren't very many coincidences when it comes to Fortune 500 companies. I promise you that.
No,
Right.
there's not. And particularly
right.
when they're losing money.
That's a true take too. Moen, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's God doesn't play dice with the universe.
Oh boy, you're going deep for that recall. I appreciate that. All right, this is your last question out the door, Pickles. Jamie Thornton, says the Georgia Tech drink problem is this: viewership. 3 SEC schools get watched more than Georgia Tech in Atlanta. Does the Big want that? I don't know. I don't have any Big Ten connections. So you are a new Big Ten connection, Pickles. What do you think about that?
Yeah, because I had to make the sales pitch for 6 months about why my school deserves to be in the Big Ten.
Right.
I feel like I have a little bit of perspective on it. And everyone will hate me. They will throw tomatoes at their computer screen when I say academics, but it matters. I'm not saying it's the end all be all, but it's part of the equation. And the Big Ten cares about that because, yes, they're making crazy money and they got to protect their asset when it comes to their football. They're not going to take a hit just to add a school, but it factors in that you're adding billions in research with a B. That matters. It does matter. You're adding Atlanta and you say, yes, they're not the most watched team in Atlanta, but it's the opportunity for growth that Spartanburg, South Carolina probably doesn't have. Right. They're limited in where they can expand to, especially surrounded by their SEC teams. And you got to take it in. I would say the biggest thing to me and all these TV analysis you see, very few of them dive into what network did they play on, what time slot did they play on, and who did they play. That's what matters most. Because you can say, oh, this team got crap viewership just out of raw number, and then you see who they played and when they played. Washington had terrible TV viewership the last couple of years, and then you realize they're playing 2 to 3 after dark games a year.
Right.
It's just the reality of the situation. I'm not saying they're going to be some juggernaut in the Big Ten, but they're certainly going to be the top level brand that they project out on paper to be. They draw numbers. All these playoff games, the Pac-12 championship, those drew numbers because they were put in an advantageous time slot on an advantageous network. you got to factor that all in for both Clemson, Miami, and Georgia Tech, who to me are the three in consideration to be Florida State's partner.
Moen, educate this Pickles guy, would you?
On Georgia Tech,
No, on all of it. Everything he just said.
I wasn't paying attention. I was arguing in chat.
Oh, okay. Well, that doesn't me no good.
Sorry,
We were
Pickles.
answering the
all good.
comment that you can see
I'm
on
just
the
going to go
screen.
back. Let me chime in for a second. I'm going to say this one more time, and I've said this. I said it all during the Pac-12, Big 12 fiasco. It doesn't matter that much about this academic stuff, man. Look, in the end,
It does in the Big Ten,
very,
though, Jason.
How
Yeah.
much though? How much?
Not-
did
not-
it?
not,
when
like,
it boiled down to
10%.
it, who did they took brands? They didn't take the big boys. as
No,
far as
I
the-
know that. But you can't
as
just
far as that-
throw it out the window and say it doesn't matter at all. Is all I'm saying.
It's just a
But I
piece of the
think that
pie. It's not a very big
when
piece.
you start
but-
looking at partners to go with Florida State from the ACC, I think that that's the last thing they look at, because you have brands like North Carolina, you have brands like Virginia, of course, Virginia and North Carolina, I know, are starting to look. I think that seems to be who the SEC wants. But I also think I was disagreeing with what I saw that the Ute was saying last night, that he believes Clemson is. I don't think that Clemson is going to the Big Ten. I don't.
Right.
I just don't buy that one at all. That being said, there's a number of schools that I think would absolutely head to the Big Ten first. I actually like the guy you guys had on from Pharrell that was talking about the weather and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of things I think would have to happen first before Georgia Tech is. I mean, just based on they haven't been good in so long.
Right.
Their brand is not near as powerful. And look, we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar football space. We're talking about sports, and I think that when you convolute the academics with it, the way that, and I'm not dogging on you what you're saying, Pickles. I think that it's been so overblown by so many people, though, that it's easy to default to that. Is what I feel like. It's
fair.
so easy for people to default to that because it got thrown out there by the idiots of the world like Tony Alton.
Yeah, but we're not doing
long.
that, so I don't really dwell on it.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that those things happen so many times that
Right.
this is why you get a lot of this, and it makes sense to why it would. But I think that if you get back to the heart of what conference realignment is, there's a lot of regionality involved in it. It particularly when you start talking about the SEC, regionality matters, and I think that you just judging by what you heard from your guy from Pharrell last night, that's a Miami guy. He was like, "We don't want to go to the Big Ten."
I'm going to interrupt you right there because after the show was over, I heard from 10 people that were Miami people that said what he was saying. They didn't know two people in the same room that felt the same way. So I'm not sure. That's the first Miami person we've had on the show. We're going to have more.
But they don't even go to their own stadium that much, so I can see that they wouldn't.
Let's not get sidetracked by Miami tonight. Anyway, I appreciate what you're saying. Moen, do you have a thought now at this point? Moen's been drinking. I think we're gonna have to be kind to him a little bit.
Moen's frozen.
He's frozen up. All right, Pickles.
Yeah, real quick,
why don't you
Jason,
tell everybody again what you're doing? Let me bring up our brand so while you're talking through it, everybody knows where we're at. Go ahead.
Yeah, my 2 seconds left for Jason. It wasn't that I'm trying to say it's this academic thing and that's the end all be all. We just know that that's going to be in the sales pitch, right? That when the network's going to say, I only care about football, but ultimately the Big Ten presidents have to approve this. Georgia Tech, that's going to be in their sales pitch. We have these academics. It's not a giant slice of the pie, but they're going to look at it. It matters. It makes them money in a different way. That's all I was saying about it.
All right, Pickles, why don't you sign out for us?
Yep. So starting on Monday, it's pretty exciting. We're going to have a brand new show coming to College Football Mafia. It's going to be the Big West Mafia Show. Let's see if I can point the correct direction.
It's right underneath you, man.
Yeah. The Big West Mafia Show. And it's going to be myself and potentially some others. We're still kind of figuring out the back half of it, but we're going to be coming at college football news, same kind of stuff you're seeing on here, but it's going to be my take as a former Pac-12 and now going into the Big Ten. We're going to cover the 4 schools coming in, and I'm really curious to see how they adapt going forward. We're going to cover Big Ten news, and then obviously college football as a whole, news of the day, stuff like this, because realignment, it affects all of us. It affects the new future Big Ten going forward. And I'm just excited to give you guys hopefully my 2 cents. I'm totally fine with getting stuff wrong and people call me out in chat and we can have a good talk about it. That's how the most fun discussions happen, but that's going to be coming your way starting Mondays at 5:00.
Congratulations, man! I'm glad to see you coming onto the network with them, man. That's awesome stuff.
Yeah, coming to the dark side from the other end of the chat screen.
One thing you're going to need to do, Pickles, is put everything in Eastern time zone.
Yeah.
So that everybody knows it's that he's being very clear. That's 5 Pacific. It is not 5 Eastern. Yeah. So
5 Pacific. I've never lived west of the Rockies or east of the Rockies, rather. So you got to bear with me. I don't do everything in Eastern time zone. By the time you guys are rolling into work, I'm still sleeping. So bear with me.
Nationwide college football mafia here. We want to make sure we brand and get your reach as far as possible. Yep. So I'll be there with you on Monday, and it'll be fun.
Yep.
Anybody else?
5 Pacific. There you go.
Anybody else have a question for him on his way out?
No. Good luck, Pickles. I'll be watching.
Sink or
swim. We're gonna go for it
as well.
Yep.
I'll be tuning in as well. Awesome. Good stuff.
All right. Appreciate it, guys.
You bet. We'll see you later.
Go Dogs.
Have a good one. Okay. Peace. All right. So Pickles is gone. All right, Jason. So you came in the middle of something. Kind of what's going on with you? What's your top of mind and concern? Oklahoma now is firmly got the door, half body out the door. Let's just wipe away the rest of this college basketball season and prepare for the SEC. How are things looking for Oklahoma right now?
I think it's looking a lot better than people think it is. You've got the narrative that's out there right now is that Texas is in such a prime position, but Oklahoma isn't. I think it's a ridiculous narrative, but I love it. And I think that let them sleep on what Oklahoma's doing. Now, what I would preface a lot of that with is that I do believe that the schedules are so completely different when you start talking about the Red River rivals, that you very well may see Texas have a better record in year one, but not be as good a team. I firmly believe that Oklahoma probably wins the Red River game next year. I think they're in as good a position and better defensively, better at the skill positions, aside from you can probably say Quinn Ewers because of his experience, right?
Is he not coming out? I thought I heard he was coming out in the draft.
No, he's the starter right at the moment.
Okay.
He's their starter, but you've got to realize that they'd already lost Brooks and they had some guys that were pretty good, but they're not going to have a bell cow back like they've had for the last 5 years, right? When you figure Bijan and Roshan and then Dylan Brooks. I like CJ Baxter. I like Jaden Blue. They're going to always add guys into their running back room, but you got to figure they lost A.D. Mitchell. They lost Whittington. They lost Xavier Worthy. Those are their, they lost their 4 best pass catchers. JT, was it Sanders? Yeah, Sanders, their tight end as well. Now, they did go into the portal and added some big pieces, I believe. But the thing is with the portal, you have to hope that it's all going to mesh together well, right? The guys that he had as his, aside from A.D. Mitchell, it was his only year there. And he had a good season. But I think it added to what was already a really well put together offense that had been together for a while. They'd had time to mesh together. They didn't play very well together in the first year with Quinn. So there's some wonder what they're going to do there. They did great in recruiting, and I think they've done some good stuff in the portal. But they lost their entire defensive line. They lost their defensive line coach. They're having to replace some of that stuff. But automatically, the thought is that they're clicking and ready to go. And I think that a lot of that has to do with, that they want. I think that there's a national media hope that Texas is the darling of the thing. I got to tell you, until I see them do it more than 1 year in a row, anything, I don't buy Texas. You know what I mean? But they do have a schedule that once they play Georgia after the Red River game, the remaining SEC schedule was 14 games below 500 in 2023. So they do have a favorable, back half of the schedule. I think that if they don't make it to the conference championship game, I think it's a failed season for Texas. But I would tell you that Oklahoma has a lot of returning talent and guys that you expect to step up as sophomores as well on the defensive end of the ball. Plus, they added the best defensive line in the country overall with 5 blue chip guys.
Let me interrupt you there, Jason. You're a little in the weeds for our audience, right? We don't get a lot of Oklahoma or SEC talk. So I was thinking bigger. You're getting down to the second tackle, and I'm not sure we're going to get a lot of questions on that. So I'm thinking more big picture, where Oklahoma sits in the SEC. Are you going to be third or fourth? Are you going to be first? And how do you think that's going to play out in the new expanded college football playoff 12-team playoff?
I think they got a shot. I think that they're scheduled, and I got a little long-winded with it, but I think that their schedule is definitely, they play five teams that had 10 or more wins. Alabama, who didn't lose a ton, Ole Miss, Missouri, LSU, and a lot of those games are on the road. They go to LSU, they go to Auburn, they go to Ole Miss, and they go to Mizzou, and we're talking about teams that all had 10 wins or more, right? So I think that my prediction has been up until this point about 9-3, which I think would contend for the playoff.
Oh, sure.
I don't, I think it would. Obviously, to me, they have one of the aside from Florida, they have the hardest schedule in the SEC. I think. So if you can get to 9-3, I think that you probably get your spot in the playoff. I also could see them going 8-4. They might go 10-2 if Jackson Arnold has a great season. Maybe they go 10-2. But my prediction has always been 2025 for them to really make a run at it.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
So that would be what? That would be a 3-year lead time for that for Venables, right? If you go to 25, it means the last 2 years and then one more year before you really think.
Yeah, the first year in the SEC, tough schedule. You can see them making a run. But I also think that when you have a first-year starter, he's definitely more talented than Dylan Gabriel, but Jackson Arnold is still going to be essentially a freshman. So a lot of things would have to go right, I think, for them to really contend for the championship. I still think Georgia's the best team in the country, right? I still think they are. I think Ohio State has an opportunity to be that good, too. I'm not sure that I love them at quarterback. But aside from the quarterback, I think that Ohio State's as loaded as you could possibly be.
Moen, what do you think about Oklahoma and what Jason's presented tonight?
Yeah, I think next season's going to be a bellwether season for him. We're going to see how far along Brent Venables is. The SEC is not a cakewalk. It's,
absolutely not.
8-4, I think, is maybe being a little generous after losing your quarterback. I'm thinking 8-4 is your ceiling. I could see it easily being 7-5, 6-6, somewhere in that range. 9-3, I think, is a really hopeful. I know Alabama's lost a lot of talent with Kalen DeBoer coming.
Right, I think Alabama's set to take a big tumble.
They'll take a tumble, but I mean, you got Alabama, you got Missouri, you've got LSU.
The LSU game is one you got to be concerned about. I'm not worried about Missouri though. I got to tell you, I didn't.
They had a good team last year, Jason.
They lost their entire defensive staff.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I think it's going to, and until you see them kind of move and do it more than once. I mean, look, Mizzou's been in the same conference with Oklahoma until these last, 10 years that they've been in the SEC for the entirety of college football's existence, back to the Big 8 and all that. So they have about the same winning percentage against Oklahoma as does, and Oklahoma's been recruiting right up at the top with everybody in the top 10 for 3 years. They literally added a lot more talent than every one of their skill position guys, aside from Jackson Arnold, is not new. They've all been there before. The portal ads that they made, I like them. I don't think that 9-3. That's my prediction is 9-3. I think they could go 10-2. I think they could. I think it would take a lot,
Right.
and it would mean that Jackson has definitely progressed quickly. But you got to remember, this is a guy that won the Elite 11.
Right.
That won
That's
the Elite
true.
11 competition. He was the Gatorade Player of the Year in the entire nation as a senior at Denton Geyer. So we're
Who
not
you
talking
love-
about a guy that.
You think?
What's
So I'm
that?
picturing, I haven't seen your schedule, but I'm trying to figure out who you play that beats you.
Well, I think that there's a bunch of games that you could see them losing. I think that they got 2 buys and they come at really opportune times, right before the Red River game, which that's Texas, and then the next one is they've got a buy right before the Alabama game, which is a home game. Now after the Alabama game, they got to go to LSU. I think that that's the struggle is that you've got Tennessee first. My first loss concern. I mean, Tennessee you got to worry about, but it's a home game. But you follow that up the next week, you got to go to Auburn where they win 75% of the time at Jordan-Hare.
Oh, right.
So I believe that there's probably a possibility of 5 or 6 losses. I said this on my show the other day. But those are possible losses. I don't think they lose them all.
Right.
You know what I mean? I just don't see that. I think that they could lose a game or two that you wouldn't want to see them lose. I think that they could win a couple of games that you may not think they win.
Yeah.
Again, I think that they're going to see the court if they don't completely just fall on their face and come apart next year, which really is.
I would find that hard to believe that they would.
I don't see it happening either because of the fact that there is a lot of returning experienced guys that have kind of been through it. That they've taken on Brent Venables' attitude and the way that he is, and just they got tougher. The difference between them and Texas in the Red River game last year was flat out toughness. They won in the trenches, and they weren't supposed to.
So let's run through the schedule really quick, because I know we have some Q&A that we want to do on a national side, and I want to welcome Immaculate home from his date with his wife. Appreciate him being with us tonight. Let's quickly go through this schedule. Houston Cougars, Tulane. You worried about either of those?
No.
Okay. Tennessee, is that a pick 'em?
I think that's a tough game. I think that they know each other well. They coached together for a long time.
Right. It's at Oklahoma, so.
It is at Oklahoma, but they're both freshman quarterbacks or sophomores, but, in their first season. Both 5-star guys. I think Oklahoma should win it, but, yeah, it's going to be a good game, man. You have to expect it to be a good game.
Auburn in Alabama.
See, that's one of the losses that I think I can see them having. I'm not necessarily picking them to lose it, and they don't. The thing about Oklahoma is they don't know anything about the haunted place that you start hearing people talking about Jordan-Hare. We know they win 75% of their games. They also lost to New Mexico State there this year, so
yeah,
they should win.
True.
You know what I mean? They should.
Quickly, then you run to Red River in Texas, and that's always a pick 'em.
Oklahoma wins.
Let's see. South Carolina's at home. That's good.
Yeah,
Ole
they
Miss
should win that one.
Ole Miss is very good.
I think it's a good game, and the one thing I would say about that game is that you kind of have to look at it as I think it's as much a question about Lane Kiffin as it is about Brent Venables when all's said and done there, right? Because of the fact that Lane doesn't seem to win those games that he needs to win against big-time teams. You know what I mean? He beats teams at home. They do have them at home. It's at the Grove. I think it's going to be a great game. But, I think that could be one of those games that maybe Oklahoma wins it, maybe they lose it, My guess is again, if I'm looking at 3 losses, my most likely losses would probably be the end of the season game with LSU. Probably maybe Mizzou, or not Mizzou, absolutely not Mizzou, Ole Miss, and then the possibility probably there of, say, Bama. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
Bama
Alabama.
probably.
Although you have them at home.
You do have them at home. I think that you want to win that one for sure, right?
Right. Well,
Because of the fact
yeah.
that you do have an opportunity, new coach, you get them at home. If you're going to get them, you know, particularly with a young quarterback, that would be the spot to do it in.
And
But,
then and then LSU on the road. That's all. Oh my gosh.
I
That's
think,
gonna be really
if that's
tough.
a night game if that's a night game in Death Valley, it's almost like going to BYU at night. It's pretty much the same thing.
Right.
It's just one of those that you just can't say that you expect to win that one. You know, I saw somebody in the chat saying 6-6 at best. I think that would be catastrophic for Oklahoma.
Let's get some comments here. First from Moen and Immaculate. Do you guys have any Oklahoma or scheduling questions for them? Go ahead, Immaculate.
I got a big one. I came on here to ask one thing, Jason.
Okay.
I need you to tell me this thing is possible.
Yeah.
All right. I need to know that both Oklahoma and Texas are going to win out of the SEC this year and actually get into the playoffs. Although neither one of them winning the SEC championship, so that this thing can be possible.
Both of them?
No. Yes.
Okay.
I want
they
both.
could.
I want them both playing each other in the
Okay.
first round, so that for the first time you guys play at one of each other's home fields and not in Dallas at the stadium. Is that possible?
Well, that's not
Wow.
asking for much, is it?
That's not asking for much, I don't think, man. Come on now. How
That's not
awesome would that
asking
be,
for
though,
much.
if one of them has to actually go to the other
I
school?
tend to doubt that would be what they do in the committee wise as far as the seating is concerned.
I think
But
that's pretty hot if they
I
did.
tell you what, though, it's like I
Huge.
said a minute ago. I think that Texas, I think it's got to be considered a big failure for Sark if they don't make it to the playoff, if they don't make that conference championship game. Their back half schedule. I don't know if you're looking at that, if you guys have seen that yet. Vandy, Florida at home. You know, the best game that they have on the back half of that schedule is probably Kentucky. It's at home.
Here's
tough.
I think you're right, and here's my sneaky scenario. Ole Miss wins the SEC against Texas in their championship game.
You're gonna forget about Georgia?
What about Georgia, Immaculate?
No, I don't think they're that
Get
good.
the hell out of here!
Oh, dude.
I think
Not that good.
Four SEC teams get into the playoff.
Wow.
And if OU can sneak in, they could be like the really low seed, and Texas could be the high seed, and they could get paired up.
Except if Oklahoma beats them, which I think they will. I think they're going to beat them.
Okay, all right.
But that being said, I think that, but I could still see Oklahoma having more losses at the end of the year because, let's say, Michigan's really going to be, even though they get Texas at home, that's going to be a hard win for them to get, I think. They're going to have a new everything, right? New quarterback, new all of it, new coach. And I like Sharon Moore as much as the next guy, but I don't see that being a guaranteed win at the Big House. I don't. And it's the first time that they've played anybody decent in their non-conference schedule in how long? So I think that's a tough one. I think that's tough for Michigan. If they were to lose that one, and let's say they lost to Georgia and OU, they still only have 3 losses, but that's 2 losses in conference. That puts them in the conference championship game. I really think that 9-3 is probably the floor that you don't look at it as a complete failure for Texas. If they're worse than 9-3, it's a complete failure.
Moen, what do you think about Oklahoma?
I think it's great that Immaculate has game planned it all out in order to achieve this.
I want that one
right
thing.
there with it. He was right
Something
there.
that never happens.
Ole Miss can win,
Is
and
it
then this
possible,
one.
though?
In fact, I think he was lurking. He didn't even join the show
totally.
until he found out Jason was
I was
gonna be
thinking,
here.
but I was like, I didn't want
And
to come
he's
in,
like-
but you invited me. I'm like, okay, I got to find this out. I got to ask Jason this.
Do you think it's going to be? Are they going to get to to the 7-5 deal, or to where?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that next. Let's talk about that right now.
Okay, because
So,
I don't know how you get 4 SEC teams. That means you get 3 out of the. Somebody's getting asked out.
yeah, so let's talk about that. For 2 years, we know for a fact it's 12 teams, right?
Yeah.
Which means you got 4 teams for the autonomous 4 leagues. Everybody knows who
Right.
those are. That would be the Big 10, Big 12, SEC, and the ACC. So that's 4 out of the way. So now you need to decide on the big guys, how many teams do they get in? When I look at the roster, it's pretty hard to not go 4-4 and the Big 12 and the ACC only get 1 team apiece.
I mean,
I think that's really hard not to envision.
Look at what happened this year, man. I know, I
Yeah.
agree with you, but we were all shocked at what they did this year. So
Right.
maybe we get shocked again next year with some like, what?
Maybe.
You know,
I think it would kind of depend on the Big 12. I think if the Big 12, if you had, say, like 2 years or last year, 2 years ago now, you had TCU went all the way through the season undefeated, and Fitzy was talking about this last night. Then they lost in the conference championship game. They still put them in the playoff, but had they won the conference championship game, K-State doesn't get in to a New Year's Six bowl, right? So I think that you could see that happening. If you do have one team that, let's say Utah is heads above the rest next year, right? And they get through the whole thing and then they win it, then I think you could end up only having one team from the Big 12. And I don't know that that's a good sign for the Big 12, but I think that you could see that happening. In that case, that tells you even more that they got to get rid of the group of 5s.
That's just it. Yeah, because I'm sorry, I counted wrong. A group of 5 team would also be in that. So there'd be 5 reserve. That would leave, because
it's
I
6
and 6 and 6. It would be 2 group of 5s. But
yeah, I don't think we're going to be 6 and 6 though. I think
it is.
It is the second. I think they're going to figure it out, and it's going to be 7.
I agree with. I think they will get it figured out.
I hope that's what they do.
It's just it's a negotiation.
It's high risk. I know it's playing poker.
But
I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't know if they go that route, they will forever isolate themselves from the rest of the pack, and nobody will ever think about working with them. That's my opinion. If they dig in their heels, and Schultz especially for Washington State, and he does that, and is the one guy that holds up the whole thing the rest of the world wants, I think there's a distinct possibility Washington State could get blackballed. I believe that.
I could possibly see Oregon State get offered in Washington State.
Yes, that's what it would. That's
scary.
what blackball would look like.
I'm a little worried about that because Oregon State does have a little more value. But like just for the math, is what people understand. 4 SEC teams, 3 Big 10 teams, 2 Big 12 teams. So you're at 9 there. 2 ACC teams, and then 1 G5 gets you your 12.
No,
that's what I was thinking.
You just went to 14.
No, I went 4 plus 3 for 7.
4, 3 be 7, 9.
2
11,
from the Big
12.
12 is 9. 2 from the ACC is 11. 1 from the G5 is 12.
I think. Okay, I thought I heard another 2 in there. Okay,
I think
that's what I was.
I thought I heard 2 extra in there somehow. So
Moen,
you're probably right. Moen's probably right. They're able to hold out and they go 6-6, and they're just going to do it for 2 years, and that's probably what happens. But I'm telling you right now, if that does happen that way, they're going to get hung out to dry later. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and I think that's I would agree with you on that. I think that the thing is that you said this the other day on my show, though, Bomber, too, is that all they'll do is just wait it out. And then
that's right.
And I think that this alliance thing kind of hints at, we don't give a shit what anybody else thinks. We're liable to just take and do a FBS deal or our own subdivision, and everybody gets left out then. Because now
Moen's smarter than me, though. He looks into the analytics more than I'm just more of a license plate guy, right? Just give me the name, and I figure where they're going to end up. And I know Moen has put thought into his, so my idea that they get frozen out is probably wrong.
I don't think that it's wrong, man. If you can leave Florida State out of a 14 playoff, don't tell me they won't find any reason in the world to freeze those guys out.
Well, Moen,
if
why don't
they
you
do that.
explain in greater detail what you were saying? I cut you off.
Yeah, I'm saying it's still 6-6 until it changes. That's what it is. I know they may have time to negotiate still, but it doesn't matter. It's as of today, it's 6-6.
Right.
And they had every possibility today to change that to a 7-5. And Schultz refused. So obviously he's either overplayed his hand or he is.
But it also could be just the first time that they talked, and he's trying to see what he can pull.
Yeah, but it's
Right.
not the first time they've talked. They've talked earlier this year about it as well. So I mean, he's had all these.
I think that
months
they're
to come
definitely
up
trying
with
to
it.
make sure that they're worried financially. I think more than anything, but I don't. He may have overplayed his hand, and I think at this point, if you allow this first playoff to go to a 6-6 and they don't change that, I think Bomber's right. I think that they would absolutely stop talking to them.
Yeah,
Period.
I'm sure they
Is
would.
that,
Yeah.
is that it, Moen?
If you
Yeah, they
guys,
would ice him out.
you guys can look. There was comments today by Sankey on the Feinbaum show where he says they're
Right.
having problems with the CFP, and if this doesn't get squared away, he's basically kind of saying we might move on from the CFP. Now, I don't think that means they go off on their own. I think that there's just a new system, kind of like when the BCS stopped working in 2012.
Right.
They moved on 2 years later to a new system. Right now,
But-
2024.
Move it up to the 40 team, however you want to do it.
But they're contracted for 2 more years.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
But I'm saying like 2024, they start talking about doing something new for
Right.
2026. Just like in
Right.
2012, it failed in BCS. So then 2014, they had something new. So
Moen, what
They're already decided they've got an advisory council that's only reporting to the SEC and the Big Ten. What does that tell you?
But Immaculate and Moen,
Yeah.
this is where I get lost a little bit. When
Yeah.
you're talking about the organization part of it, right? And we're talking about the SEC and the Big Ten getting the lion's share of the attention, and then that means they get the lion's share of the control.
Mhm.
What is their incentive to do anything more than just wait it out to rebuild it in their image and not, they can just slough off the Washington States of the world. Don't you think?
It's possible. I think that there's other complications involved. There's in-state politics. There's some schools that are connected to the lower schools through politics. So it's not so simple as just leaving everyone behind. I mean, it sounds like it could be simple, but it's not. But you're right. The longer this drags out, they're getting closer to that point of saying, okay, coming to an agreement inside the CFP is becoming harder and harder. So we're going to need something different. Like that's why I say the conference playoff system, they each have their own thing, and then they just send their champions in together. It's very simple. You don't have to sit in a boardroom with each other and figure out how we're going to make something work together. So
no, but the discarding,
two
the
years-
sub leagues is easy to do. The discarding of the sub leagues, they could just basically say we don't want to deal with any of the G leagues, couldn't they?
I mean, I don't know, maybe, but I think that I know in some of the states
you
there's
need
actual.
You need them for a non-conference. You need some other stuff.
No, I'm not talking about
You
playing
don't-
games. I'm not talking about playing games. I'm only talking for this upper division.
Right. What I
I
would say to that is that if that's where you got to be careful if you're Washington State and Oregon State, because there's 2 years left. You said that, but one of them is coming up, right? And you don't want to make plans 2 years out. You want to make plans at least 2 years out. You don't want to be making them at the last freaking minute and dragging it on. Look at what that did for the Pac-12. It got them killed.
But my point is, like for the Ohio States of the world,
yeah,
the Ohio State, right, Moen? Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Ohio States are not looking at almost any of this, right? They're thinking all top up.
Well, I don't think the people
Moen.
at the top, aren't worried about this because they're getting in anyway based off of their brain.
What do they care? Yeah. I agree.
So, but see, I think that's the attitude.
It's your middle tier schools that care. It's going to be.
They're not going to wait very long, is what I was saying. I don't think they're going to wait.
Michigan State's going to care about this. Tennessee and the SEC.
Big
12.
My point is, though, the Big 12 and the ACC, whatever's left of it, they just don't have any control. That's my point.
Yeah, but
So-
right now they had a say in everything until I have no idea how you would still allow Oregon State and Washington State to have a say in it today.
What it's done, that's related to the Pac-12, and that's not going away for the next 2 years. So there's nothing we can do about that. Let's get to this question from Summit Hawk, $4.99 super
Why?
chat. Jason Watkins, if the SEC expands and they poach between 2 to 4 teams from any of the conferences, who would you take?
I think Clemson would probably be one of them, and then, I mean, if they had their pick, it would be Clemson, Florida State, probably. I know that Florida State's being tabbed for the Big Ten. I get all that.
Right.
I tend to wonder how much it matters at this point if they're all in it together and they do a subdivision, because I do feel like that regional could matter a little more. Now I know Florida will throw a shit fit about Miami being involved in it or whatever, or even Florida State. I know that they will. I think, but I also think that North Carolina, I keep hearing that North Carolina, Virginia thing.
Right.
I do believe that Clemson's definitely going to be one of them. The other way that it falls, I couldn't really tell you. I certainly think they're coming from the ACC, though. I think that they would be coming from the ACC. Greg Sankey and that conference has made it very clear that they want to stay within their regional footprint.
Right.
They don't care anything about being coast to coast. They don't. That's not their intention. So to me, I believe that they're going to stay within their regional footprint if there's any chance whatsoever to do anything else. I think that Georgia Tech is a no-go when it comes to the SEC. A lot of bad blood there whenever they left the conference back in the day. Florida State could be a no-go because of that very reason, because Coach Bowden in the SEC kind of had it out for a long time. I'm sure you guys remember that, back in the day. Coach Bowden was very open and honest that why the hell would I go to the SEC when I could go to the Orange Bowl every year right here? It was, but that there was a lot of bad blood there. I believe that. Well, and
I'm just asking for
Clemson
2 to 4 teams, right? That's what we're trying to sort out is 2 to 4 teams. Do you only
I
take
think it's
2?
those 4. No, not
okay.
It wouldn't be 2. It would be Carolina. My 4 would be Carolina, Clemson, probably Virginia, Florida State would be the 4 that I would say that you would want.
Okay.
The 2 I think would probably go would be Clemson and probably Carolina, maybe.
Okay. Moen, what do you think? 2 to 4, and who are they?
2 only, Virginia and North Carolina.
Immaculate?
Yeah, same.
I'm at 2 as well, and it's Virginia and North Carolina. We've been sort of unified on that for quite a while now. Obviously, the big hang-up is the politics in those 2 states.
Yeah.
But I'm with Moen in this. I don't think there's any possibility, in my opinion, I don't think there's any possibility they take North Carolina State or Virginia Tech, regardless of what happens with the other 2 schools.
I used to be on those, but I think this little partnership between the Big Ten and SEC shows that they're not going to let the North Carolina Board of Governors play them against each other.
Right.
So I'm off the 4 teams to the SEC. North Carolina State and Virginia Tech are probably Big 12 in the future.
Yeah. Is there any? Now, I want to ask you guys: is there, if they were to just say, "Hey, we want to do a 40-team subdivision," you don't have to leave your conference. These are the 40 teams, that we're going to choose from for our tournament.
Right.
Do you see the ACC staying together? Or do you think that's the better possibility that you don't see any of them move?
Immaculate?
Aside from Florida State, we know they're going.
Yeah, right.
Just from a Big Ten perspective, and maybe Moen will back me up on this, I don't see any Big Ten schools wanting to be part of something like that, which kind of blurs the lines of who's in our conference and who's not. Like this 40-team idea. I think that there is going to be a new division. I think they're going to take FBS and split it from FCS. And that's going to be the new division. That some schools may have to drop back down. Some schools might actually try to push up. The NCAA put that $5 million price tag to move up for a reason. I don't think it was to block. I think it was a tax. So we'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be larger than kind of the popular talk. You know, the kind of popular talk is like, oh, we're going to have this 40-team league, the 30-team league idea. And it sounds pretty cool. I don't think it quite works as well as it sounds. So I'm more on the idea that I think the FBS becomes a new division on its own.
Moen.
Yeah, I don't see the Big Ten ever allowing that to happen. I know that everybody, it's hard for people not in the Big Ten.
It's hubris, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's the Big Ten's a conference, and we do take care of our smaller members in the conference. We're not going to let them get left out. So I know people can complain all they want that Rutgers sucks and Purdue ain't worth a shit. They're worth a shit to us. So
Right.
it is what it
Purdue's
is.
going for number one in basketball. It's like, okay, they're doing their job. They're doing their
just
job.
win in March.
Yeah.
And I don't think it there's not any relegation. And because of that, the 40-team thing doesn't really get off the ground because in those two conferences, you've only got 18 to 20 schools that are at the top in football. I mean, once you get to 20, you have all these other leagues that have really good brands that could fill out the next 20. So the 40-team thing, I know there are certain people that we don't talk about on this show that have been proponents of that, but I don't think that happens. I do believe that the SEC and the Big Ten have absolutely a overstretched amount of power in those two conferences, and that's probably never changing again.
Conundrum said something about he had Oklahoma State as an SEC possibility. It's really not. The people that are talking in SEC circles have said that would probably be one of the last ones, that they would probably go with would be Oklahoma State. I don't really see that one.
There's a lot of options in through that.
There would be I think that you would see West Virginia first.
Wow. Yeah, I could see that. Summit Hawk, thank you very much for your super chat. We really appreciate it. I'm going to clap for you. I know Bowen's on that. There we go. We have five new memberships from Ryan Willie, part of the family. Thank you so much, Ryan. Nice. Those memberships. Well, first, Moen, give your spiel about the memberships.
Yeah, those memberships were given to Benjamin Griffin, FSUJ11, Rumesh Lance, Jason Ritchie, and Cryptic Mind. Make sure you thank Ryan Willie in the chat for that. Ryan Willie, that makes you a
winner
in our books. Thank you so much for that. Everybody, you've got those gifted memberships. When the stream's over, highly recommend you go take a look at that. Wild Ute University. Does Clemson fit in the Big Ten? It's going to open some eyes.
Let me bring that up so we can show everybody what that is, Moen. Give me 1 second here. All right, go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, right there, Wild Ute University. This is members only content for you. It's about a 30-minute video that Ute and I cut. Goes over all kinds of things: brand, academics, TV viewership. So just how Clemson fits into the Big Ten. Now, this video will go public on Friday if you're not a member, but then when we will have a UNC Big Ten video in its place for the members. I'm also working on my Moen Explains It All video for the member section as we speak. So
plus we've got Miami coming up too.
Yes, Miami as well. Lots of Wild Ute universities to get done here. So, but thank you very much, Ryan Willie, for that for the gifting the 5 memberships. It helps us keep the lights on here. We greatly appreciate it. We love everybody in the chat.
Yes, we do. We're winding down now. This has gone fast. 2 hours went by like that, literally. So, Jason, why don't you kind of tell everybody what's going on with you and the coach and what you guys have been up to and what you guys got coming up in your near future?
Yeah, I'm working on a couple of. I'm going to do another afternoon live session tomorrow. Got a couple of different things I'm talking about. I don't want to say for sure what I'm going to talk about because I'm not positive. I've been kind of going back and forth with some different topics, but as I told you, I had to cover a news story today for the newspaper that I'm working at, so I didn't get as much into the stuff that I wanted to. Definitely glad to be talking about college football again this evening. But Yeah, look, we're definitely looking forward to the rest of the offseason, man. I'm excited about it. I think that I love watching you guys' show so much because of the fact that there are so many different angles that you could see happening. You know what I mean? I believe that I don't necessarily believe that Clemson won't be a part of that. I understand that South Carolina would really hate that.
Right.
But I don't know that I think that Clemson, because of their brand value, is very attracted to the SEC. I do understand why they would be attracted to the Big Ten as well, but I just don't think that they fit. And regionality is a big deal. But again, I think that that's probably something we're going to look a lot at. I want to dive into some more of this stuff with these. I wonder how much this streaming platform thing is going to change what could happen, you know?
Well,
I
let's
don't
talk
know that
about pricing really quick before we get off that, because that was one of the topics we didn't get to tonight. But just around the horn right here, just at first blush, how much does everybody believe this new all access pass will be for the top tier? That means you have access to Max and all of its stuff, and Warner Brothers and all of its stuff. How much do you think it'll probably be priced in tiers? But what are you guys thinking that will look like, Jason? What is it, tiers, or is it one price a la carte? What do you think?
Yeah, I think if you were just with the sports stuff and whatever they add in with that, I think it's probably around $40, 40, $50.
Oh, that's it?
I
Okay.
think so.
Okay. Immaculate, what do you think?
At least to start with.
I think you're right. I think
you
it
might be
comes
right.
with tiers. I don't think one price fits all when you're looking at that many different networks. If we saw the list, it's pretty long.
It is very long.
I would have
We're
a
gonna
hard
give
time
it away
believing
for a
that
while, I feel
they're
like.
just going to do a single price. So I think that you're right in that there's going to be a price for all of it, and then there's going to be some smaller bundles that might cost less to get people into it. And then once you're into it, they'll probably give you specials to get you to move up.
Right.
Moen, what do you think?
$29.99 for the standalone, or you can bundle it with Disney Plus and Hulu, and it'll be cheaper. You can bundle it with Max, and it'll be cheaper.
Wow, you guys are really conservative. I think it's going to be expensive. I think $50 might be the cheapest.
That's the number going around.
Yeah, and I just made that up. I didn't realize other people had said it too, but
that's what's being
I
said.
heard Thompson say 40 today, so I said 40.
Yeah, the reason I think 50 is such a big deal is because it's not just sports that you're buying with that, right? There's other stuff that comes with that broadcast. Like if you want to latch on Hulu or you want to latch on HBO, I mean, those things cost extra money. And since they're all going to be in one client, I got to believe it starts at 50 and it goes up from there, maybe 120.
But you think about it, how they're doing it now. Like, I mean, they're giving away a lot of that stuff with phone service at this point.
Oh,
You know what I
sure.
mean?
Yeah.
So I think that at the very start, they're probably gonna. I don't think they're gonna charge you for Hulu and all that stuff right away. I think later
Right.
they will. You know?
Okay. Moen, what do you did you already say? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's $29.99. They've already admitted that they're going to try and bundle it with things. So you're going to get a different rate for Hulu. Max will have their own bundle with it. So
Right. Let's see here. Marcus Williams, $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Marcus. Says at Jason, do you feel Big and the SEC should partner with the ACC and 12 and use them as feeder leagues?
Feeder leagues. Huh?
Ooh, that's brutal.
And I'm not exactly sure what he's meaning by feeder leagues, but
basically saying that the two big leagues feed on the lower leagues for everything, talent, coaching.
I mean, it kind of already.
Don't they do that already?
Yeah.
Transfer portal and coaching hires, like that's brutal, but kind of the truth. It doesn't always go in that way, but yeah.
I know people. It seems to. I feel like you've gotten more parity with this transfer portal stuff in the NIL.
Yes, that's true.
Probably had before.
Yeah.
So I think that I don't know that. I don't know how long the Big 12 and the ACC are viable for, but I don't think that they're dead yet. I just don't. And I definitely don't think the Big 12 is. I think the ACC may be on its last legs.
Right.
But I think that there's a path for them as well. I think that the Big 12, because of their basketball, and I'm not sure how this is going to go down. But so I don't know that feeder. It's an uncomfortable word for me because I don't really buy it. I think that the Big 12 is definitely the third strongest league.
Yeah, I don't think there's an argument about that right now.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
Go ahead, Immaculate.
To touch upon that, I've been kind of big pro Big 12, even though I'm not a Big 12 guy. We have not seen what's possible there because it's an entirely different model. We've always had hierarchical models for each of these conferences. It doesn't exist in the Big 12. I would say if you're a player coming up and you don't have, an invite to one of the top programs in the country, I think you kind of got to look at the Big 12 and say, I can get in there and we have a good chance to go a lot farther than say if I was in a mid-tier team
Right.
in the Big 10 or the SEC.
Yep.
So I think that some of these teams in the Big 12 are going to become better than we give them credit for right now, and that it's going to be up for grabs, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think it's going to get a lot of attention. So we'll see. Could be wrong, but
Kansas,
we got to give it a couple years.
When the hell was the last time Kansas was any good? And now they've got Lance Leipold, and they're pulling really good talent. From there's teams that these guys are not going to sit on the bench anymore. Even as second stringers that aren't getting a lot of time, they're not going to sit there for very long.
It's NIL money. You're right.
Outside of Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, and Ohio State, I don't think anybody's rope stacking 5 stars anymore.
They're losing people too.
If you're sitting on the bench, you're not getting NIL money.
Yeah, so you need to go to a school, even in a different league, you might look down on to get your playing time. Because it's all about that ticket to the NFL, right? It's all about getting to the league.
That and a lot of them will never make it to the NFL.
Or making money in college at least.
In NIL, you're right.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
Like you want to start making money your freshman or sophomore, you don't want to wait till your junior, senior year.
What do you think, Moen?
I think the Big 12 is a fantastic league, and I will finish this off to the Big 12.
Okay, I love it. That's great. Marcus Williams, thank you very much for the $5 super chat, Marcus. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Marcus.
All right. I think we're gonna wind this up. This is the end of my night, so I want to thank everybody for watching us live. This has been a great show. We had Sergeant Pickles earlier. Jason, thank you for coming on. Immaculate, thanks for bailing us out. Bailing us out.
I wanted to ask Jason that question so bad.
I know, I could tell you were itching. There's no doubt about it. If you're new to the channel, really quick, one last time, make sure you follow us all on Twitter. I'll get our names up there so you can see them. Follow us all on Twitter and subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Make sure you turn on your notifications and let everybody know why you watch the channel by giving us a thumbs up, and consider becoming a paying full-time member of the Big 12 Mafia family by joining us. Hit the join button on the main Big 12 Mafia page on YouTube, and you too will be given the powers of Grayskull that we currently are all sitting on right now. We got another super chat coming in here to close this out. Guys, we had almost 800 comments tonight. That is just amazing. That is absolutely amazing on a Wednesday night. Summit Hawk 499 says, thanks, Jason. Horns down,
Love
baby.
you, Summit Hawk. You're the man. Appreciate that.
Other than that, guys, I think we're going to sign off for tonight. Everybody have a great evening. Drive safe and don't drive at all if you've been drinking. And make sure you look for us Friday night, 7 o'clock Eastern. There will be the best night of the week for us is our Friday night shows. We want to encourage everybody to be there. And you never know who might show up on those Friday night shows. So other than that, everybody have a great night. Stay out of trouble. I'm going to say peace out.